You ever watch someone smile at you like they've rehearsed it in a mirror? Like every tooth is a soldier standing in formation for war they're too afraid to start face to face. That's the thing about hate, it dresses up. Real hate doesn't come screaming through the front door. Oh no, it slips in through laughter, through politeness, through a carefully timed compliment with a dagger behind its back. And the funniest part, you feel it. You always feel it. That tension in the room that nobody names. That shift in their eyes when your name comes up and they have to choose between clapping or cracking. They smile, but their soul flinches. Aha, now this is where the fun begins. You walk into a room thinking people are neutral, thinking they're blank slates waiting to know you. You give them your smile, your presence, maybe even your truth. What a gamble. But what they see, what really grinds their gears, isn't your flaws, no. It's that flicker behind your eyes. That little flame that says, I've been through hell and somehow I walked out laughing. That's what they can't stand. They don't hate what's wrong with you. They hate what's right about you. And that's what makes it so damn poetic. See, it's not the broken ones who catch their eye. It's the ones who glued themselves back together without asking anyone for the glue. The ones who didn't beg for permission to heal. The ones who didn't throw pity parties loud enough to get attention. You're dangerous because you prove it's possible to lose everything and still walk like royalty. You're not better, you're just living proof. And that makes them itch. Makes them itch in their bones. Because you weren't supposed to get back up. Not after what they did, not after what they said. Not after how the world tried to fold you. But you did. And now they've got a problem. You're shining in spaces they still crawl through in the dark. And what makes it worse is that you never had the blueprint. You didn't have the privilege, the favor, the fake smiles wrapped in expensive suits. You had grit, you had pain, you had nothing, but you still built something out of it. And every time they see your name, your face, your rise, they remember what they didn't build with the chances they wasted. And that eats at them more than your wins ever could. Your existence is a spotlight. And oh, how people hate being seen in someone else's light, but they won't say it. No, that's not how the game is played. They'll wrap their hate in compliments, dress it up in concern, sprinkle it with sarcasm. Oh, you're doing that now. Must be nice. Don't let it go to your head. That's their code. That's how they bleed without making a mess. But make no mistake, they're bleeding. And you're the knife. Not because you stabbed them, but because they handed you one and didn't expect you to build with it. And that is what makes them shake. They watch you closely, pretending not to. They mimic your style, then call it theirs. They wait for you to fall so they can finally breathe again. Because your rise is suffocating them. It reminds them of all the times they could have tried but chose comfort instead. It reminds them that the only thing separating you from them is the fire in your gut that said, keep going. And now they hate you. Not for what you've done wrong, but for everything you did right when the odds were all wrong. People like to say hate is loud. No, hate is clever. Hate claps when everyone else does, but with just enough hesitation to let you feel it. Hate doesn't throw bricks anymore, it sends shade in group chats. It celebrates your downfalls in the privacy of silence. It doesn't show up with horns and red eyes. It shows up in the people who used to support you, who believed in you, until you actually became something. Then suddenly they go quiet. Funny how that works, But the real trick, you keep smiling. Not because you're naive, not because you didn't notice, but because you know the truth. And the truth is, the more they hate, the more they confirm what you already knew. You're not in their lane. You're in their nightmares. You are everything they warned others about, hoping you'd stay small, hoping you'd doubt yourself enough to fall back in line. But you didn't. You broke the mold. And every time you speak, move, shine, they remember that they could have to, but didn't. And that, darling, that's why they hate you with their whole being. Not because you broke the rules, but because you rewrote them and made it look easy. You ever notice how some people go real quiet when it's your turn to win? Not angry, not loud, just silent, like someone pressed mute on their soul the second your name hit the spotlight. Funny, isn't it? How the loudest cheerleaders turn into mimes when your breakthrough shows up. They'll clap for a stranger before they'll nod at you. And it's not because you don't deserve it. Oh no, it's because deep down your rise reminds them of their stall. Your movement reminds them how long they've been standing still, hiding behind excuses, waiting for applause they never earned. That silence. That's not peace, that's tension. That's the sound of someone biting their tongue so hard it bleeds. They said they supported you, said they were proud, said I got your back like it was a badge. But when the numbers came, when the doors opened, when the lights turned your way, they backed up. Not out of humility, out of fear, because your success showed up faster than their timeline predicted. You weren't supposed to pass them. You weren't supposed to matter this much. You weren't even supposed to survive. But look at you, walking into rooms they're still begging to enter, speaking words they pretend not to hear but can't stop replaying. And now, their silence is the only honest thing they've given you, and you've noticed. Oh, you've noticed. The way they skip your name in conversations. The way they repost everyone else's wins but act like yours don't count. The way their likes get real selective when it's your post at the top. They don't say a word, but their absence screams. It's not just that they didn't clap, it's that they made sure no one else clapped either. The little whispers, the backhanded compliments, the be carefuls. And don't change warnings that slide off their tongue like concern but land like poison. They want you to think you've done something wrong. They want you to shrink yourself back into the version they were comfortable with. The version that didn't shine this bright, but here's the real kicker, they never had your back. They had your position. As long as you stayed beneath them, they were fine. As long as you were struggling beside them, they were proud. But now that you've outgrown the cage they built around your potential, they can't breathe. Because it's not just about you climbing higher. It's about the view from up there reminding them of everything they could have seen, but didn't. Everything they could have done but didn't. You became the proof that their version of impossible was just a bedtime story they told themselves to sleep better in their failure. So they withdraw, disappear behind their own shadows, watch from fake accounts, laugh in rooms where your name echoes, hoping the noise will die down. But it doesn't. Because what you carry can't be silenced, it can't be dimmed. And their silence, it's the proof. Proof that your presence is shaking something loose inside them. That your journey is making their comfort zones uncomfortable. They hate that you didn't need them. That your growth didn't require their applause, their help, their permission. You bloomed in the dark, watered by tears they hoped would drown you. And now they hide. Pretend not to see. Pretend not to care. But oh, they see. They watch every move. They study your steps. They want the blueprint without acknowledging the builder. They want your crown without the battle. And their silence. It's not just avoidance. It's envy wearing a muzzle. It's pride wrapped in denial. They can't celebrate you, because celebrating you means confronting their own reflection, and that's a horror show they're not ready for. But don't get it twisted. Their silence isn't your failure. It's their confession. A quiet little whisper that says you did it. Without me, it's the sound of respect they're too stubborn to speak. The sound of admiration drowning in jealousy. They'll pretend they don't hear the noise you're making. But every second of silence is a standing ovation they didn't mean to give. And you keep walking. Because the louder your silence gets, the clearer your power becomes. You know it's hilarious. People will pretend they don't see you suffering, pretend they don't hear your silent screams, don't notice the storm cloud following you into every room, but the moment you start smiling again, they perk up. When you were down, crying, begging for a reason to keep going, oh, they were fine with that, comfortable. Because that version of you, the broken one, didn't threaten them. That version was easier to deal with, manageable, predictable. A little tragedy walking around, reminding them they're not alone and they're on their own. Misery loves company, but more than that, it needs it. It thrives on knowing you're just as broken, just as trapped, just as desperate, but the second you stand up, fix your collar, wipe your own blood off your lips, and start walking like you never fell in the first place, that's when they flinch. That's when the panic sets in. Not because they cared that you were hurt, but because they depended on you staying that way. You rising, that's an inconvenience. That's a shift in the story they've been writing about you. A plot twist they didn't expect. And oh, how it rattles them. Because if you, with everything you've been through, can still find the strength to climb, what excuse do they have for still crawling? They'll try to rewrite it, of course. You got lucky. You changed. You forgot where you came from. They need to say something. Anything. Because acknowledging the truth that you worked through hell while they watched from the bleachers would force them to admit they've been wasting their own fight. They'll act like they don't recognize you anymore. Like your growth somehow made you unfamiliar. As if healing was a betrayal. As if becoming better means you've turned your back on pain. No, you didn't abandon the struggle. You just stopped living in it. And they hate that. Because now when they look at you, they're looking at what's possible. And that's terrifying. You see, people don't fear your fall. They fear your rise. They fear the moment you stop needing their validation. The second you realize you don't need to be broken to be loved, that's when the real tension begins. They were never rooting for you to win. They were rooting for you to stay relatable. As long as you were in the mud, they didn't have to question their comfort. But now you're walking clean. Now your smile isn't fake. Now your silence isn't sadness, it's peace. And peace, that's a language they forgot how to speak, so they'll test you. Pull at old wounds. Try to drag you back into the drama. Not because they care, but because they miss feeling better than you. Misery is a mirror, and when you escape it, they're left alone with their reflection. No more distraction. No more, at least I'm not as bad as them. Now it's just them and the echo of everything they said they would be, but never became. And your success, that's the soundtrack, but don't let it rattle you. Because their silence, their distance, their coldness, that's not rejection. That's fear. That's awe disguised as bitterness. They don't hate you. Not really. They hate that they can't ignore you anymore. That you've become undeniable. That even without their applause, you found your rhythm. They didn't teach you, guide you, build you, but now they have to watch you walk like you own the ground. You didn't just survive. You didn't just get back up. You smiled while doing it. And nothing upsets a spectator more than realizing the show went on without them. You became the main act, and they're stuck in the cheap seats, choking on popcorn and regret. That's the part they'll never say out loud, so they'll say nothing. They'll act like you vanished, like your shine isn't blinding. But inside they're burning. Because everything they feared you became it. Quietly, relentlessly. On your own terms. Let's talk about shadows, shall we? Not the ones cast by street lamps or your bedroom blinds at night. No, the living shadows. The ones with names and phone numbers and fake smiles. The ones that once called you friend, family, love, and now they whisper behind closed doors and scroll through your life like they're waiting for a tragedy to click on. They watch, oh yes, always watching. Not to celebrate, no, to catch the moment you slip. The second you falter, because that little failure, it gives them permission to keep losing. See, it's not that they want to see you lose, it's that your win exposes the excuses they've been living behind. And they can't have that. They'll clap when it's safe, when the spotlight's on and people are looking. But in private, in the dark little rooms where their bitterness grows, that's where the real version of them lives. You've been there, haven't? You felt it. That quiet envy in their voice. That laugh that's a little too forced when you tell them good news. That silence after you win, like your joy didn't fit into their carefully curated misery. People like that, they don't want you broken. They want you manageable, predictable, contained in a box with labels like used to be, still struggling or almost made it. The moment you break out of that box, they panic. Because now the roles have reversed. Now they're the ones stuck in place while you move forward. Like time finally remembered your name. They'll say you changed, that you're different, that you're cold now. But tell me this, were you cold when you were crying alone? When you were showing up for people who only called when they needed something? When you were breaking your back to prove your worth to people who never even looked you in the eyes while you spoke? No, you weren't cold. You were bleeding out and calling it loyalty. You were starving and calling it love. And now that you've locked the pantry, now you're selfish. Oh, how convenient the truth. They never hated the real you. They hated your potential, because potential means change, growth, power. And power doesn't sit well with people who thrive on control. So when you rise, when you stop answering calls that only ring when you're needed, when you stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you, that's when the mask slips. That's when the friendly becomes the furious. The love turns to loathing. All because you stop playing small and they'll talk. Oh, how they'll talk. Whisper your name in rooms you've never entered. Twist your story until even you wouldn't recognize the version they sell. But let them build their little fiction. Because while they're busy storytelling, you're busy story writing. And one of those pays off, doesn't it? One of those rewrites endings. The other just rewinds the same bitter loop over and over again. You ever notice how your peace irritates those who only knew you in pieces? That your silence is louder than any apology they never gave. It eats them up. Not because you're doing better, but because you're doing it without them. They wanted to be your savior in your downfall, not the background noise in your comeback. So they'll erase their parts, pretend they weren't there when you were on your knees. Act like they always believed in you. But you always remember who disappeared when your voice trembled, who left when your tears made them uncomfortable, who watched you drown and called it distance. And now that you've found your air, your fight, your fire, they hate that you don't need their oxygen anymore, that you don't need their approval to breathe, that you laugh louder now, walk straighter now, take up space unapologetically now. It's not that they miss the old you, it's that the new you makes them look in the mirror, and what they see, that's not your fault, that's their reflection. Their regret, their refusal to grow. But you kept walking. Even with daggers in your back, you never stopped. And now you've become something they don't recognize. Not because you changed too much, but because they never really saw you to begin with. They were looking at their projection, not your potential. And now the mask is off. On both sides, ever wonder why they smile when you struggle? No, really, why their faces light up when your plans crumble or your name's dragged through the dirt? It's not just pettiness. It's deeper than that. It's a sickness, a kind of emotional cancer they carry around, wearing it like perfume. They spray it on before walking out the door, hoping it'll cover up the stench of their own unfulfilled lives. See your wind shine a light on everything they've failed to do. Every time you get up, you're a mirror they didn't ask to look into. And no one likes a reflection that tells the truth. They hate you because you dared to dream out loud, dared to try again after falling, dared to believe in something more than the cage they've decorated with lies and low standards. You didn't just make a different choice, you exposed that they had one too. And they hate you for that. Oh, they'll never admit it. They'll dress it up in concern, maybe even advice. I just don't want you to get hurt. Are you sure that's realistic? But underneath that soft voice is a scream they don't want you to hear. Stay small so I don't have to feel like a coward. You walk into a room for you, and their laughter dins just a bit. Not because you said anything, just your presence reminds them that excuses have a deadline. You walk like someone who knows pain personally, like someone who danced with failure and came out humming. And That's infuriating to people who need tragedy to have permanent victims. You weren't supposed to get back up. You were supposed to stay broken, cry quietly, maybe post something cryptic and relatable. But you didn't. You roared. You flipped the script. You made scars into blueprints. And now they pretend they don't see you, because seeing you means admitting they've been hiding. You ever meet someone who remembers your mistakes like they were personal insults? Like your failures offended their very existence? That's not hate. That's obsession. That's someone who's taken out a lease in your story, living rent-free in the chapter you already burned. And they'll stay there as long as you keep looking back. So don't let them reread the ashes. You're too busy writing the next volume. A volume where you're not the villain in their weak little narrative. You're the plot twist they didn't see coming. You keep expecting closure from people who live in denial. You think they owe you apologies? They don't. They owe themselves honesty, but that's a debt they'll never pay. So don't wait for it. Don't beg for it. Let them choke on the silence you leave behind. Let them scroll through your success and pretend not to care, even though they're zooming in on every detail, comparing it to the life they swore was better. They say they're happy for you, but their eyes twitch when your name trends in a circle they used to control. Funny how quiet people get when your life becomes louder than their judgment. They say revenge is sweet. But no, it's not revenge you're after, it's release, freedom. You don't want to hurt them. You want to forget they had that kind of power. You want your peace back, the kind you didn't know they were stealing until you woke up one day with nothing left to give. They drained you with their constant need to be centered. Every conversation had to orbit around their emotions. Every win of yours needed to be dimmed so their mediocrity wouldn't feel so exposed. But not anymore. You see it now. You see how they were never clapping for you. They were clapping for themselves, for the illusion that they were ahead. And when the illusion shattered, so did the friendship. They wanted you quiet, compliant, maybe even a little lost. Someone they could fix. But you weren't broken, you were blooming. And blooms scare people who live in droughts. They look at your growth like it's unfair. Like you cheated somehow. Like you found a secret they missed. And you did. You learned to live without applause. To fight without an audience. To dance in the dark with nothing but your own heartbeat keeping time. And now they hate the rhythm, because it's not one they taught you. You created it, birthed it out of chaos, nursed it with tears. And now it's a symphony they can't silence. They'll call you arrogant now, cold, distant. They'll say you've changed like that's a crime, like evolution is betrayal. But you didn't change. You arrived, you became. You shed the skin they were comfortable manipulating. And what's left? It's not someone they can manage. It's someone they can't forget. That's why they still mention your name when no one asks. Why they still lurk on your pages like ghosts haunting their own what-ifs. Because you did what they were too scared to even attempt. You left the room, took the chains off, and locked the door behind you.